Plenty of football to talk about as we get closer to the start of the 2025 NFL season. So to help get twice the perspective, I've got a pair of NFL experts, longtime pros to be exact, twins who actually won a Super Bowl ring in 2018 playing together with the Patriots. I'm talking about Jason McCourty of CBS Sports and Devin McCourty of NBC Sports. Guys, appreciate you coming on the SBJ Sports Media Podcast.
Oh, appreciate you having us.
Yeah, man, excited.
Jason, I got to start with you. Congrats on teaming up with Andrew Catalon, Charles Davis, and AJ Ross this season for CBS's NFL coverage. You've moved pretty rapidly in retirement. Radio for Westwood One, studio role on NFL Network, and now calling games in the booth for CBS. What's been the biggest adjustment for you so far?
Man, I feel like every year there's a new adjustment that I've had to overcome. And I don't know if there's a biggest one, but it's just continuing to evolve as things change around you. You just said it, finished playing football, ended up getting a job at Good Morning Football. So I'm doing studio 5 days a week for 3 hours on TV, starting to really get the hang of it, then start calling games for radio. So that was a huge adjustment. And the fact that my first game, I'm down in Cleveland and I'm calling a game. And I remember when at the time, Howard Dinneroff, who was running Westwood One, called me up and was like, hey, you're going to call your first game, you're going to call it with Iron Eagle. And I was like, you sure? Like, I'm at the point where I'm calling a game with like Iron Eagle. Like, that's what y'all gonna do. But adjusting to calling a game on radio where the people listening to you, they can't see the picture. And Devin and myself, we talk about it all the time. The first time you go out there and you call a game, the first thing you see, there's a big play happens. You're watching the replay and you say, hey, you see right here. And it's just like, no, idiot. The people driving that car, they aren't seeing it. So I think that was a big adjustment for me. And then last year, I was on Good Morning Football for 2 years. The show moves to LA. So that was a huge adjustment where I got into the habit and the ritual and routine of doing that show daily. And next thing you know, just like that, within 3 weeks, the show was off air and it was gone. And I wasn't willing to move. So last year was an adjustment of the first time I got a chance to do 18 games with CBS and the NFL. So that's traveling every week and being away from the family. And then also getting to do some studio stuff with ESPN, which was an adjustment as well. So I think that's been the biggest thing I've learned is that you have to be willing to change and evolve as circumstances around you change.
You know, I've heard of welcome to the NFL moments, but I guess getting Iron Eagle like that, that's a welcome to NFL media moment. Like, wow, okay, I'm in the big leagues now.
Absolutely.
So I understand that. Devin, you were already contributing on CBS's The NFL Today while you were a player. You've been a staple now on NBC's Football Night in America show. We all know this is really Steve Kornacki's show, but, you know, are you enjoying the crew there in Stamford, Connecticut?
Yeah, and I got to say, we know it's a good time of the year when Kornacki's coming in with those khakis on because we know we're getting all our playoff questions answered. But no, man, I think exactly what you said. Watching Jay finish up his career and jump right into the media, I knew when I finished that I wanted to do that. And I knew in 2022, it was possibly my last year. And I was like, you know what? I got to just shoot for the moon. And I did. I went on CBS during our bye week. Then I went on CBS when the season ended. Then I went to NFL Game Day the next weekend for the playoffs. And then NBC Sports brings me in and I get to join the Football Night in America crew. And it's been more than I could have imagined. The amount of fun we have on Sundays of watching all the games together because it's such a unique show where we're kind of a pregame show, but we're kind of also recapping all of the earlier 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games. So my first two shows, we were in Canton and then we were in Kansas City for the opener. And I was like, I'm getting the hang of this. We're on site. The energy is great. And then that Sunday we go in studio and it's 10 games on at one time and you're watching. It's like, I need feedback on this game. What happened in that game? And I'm like, whoa, like, how do I know? There's a lot of games on. So that was a huge adjustment, but it's been a blast. And I'm super excited this year going into year 3 of, being way more comfortable and just trying to get better in everything I'm doing.
I've definitely gotten in trouble with NBC Communications calling it just a pregame show. They're like, no. We've got highlights. It's way more than that. It's not just a pregame show. So I've been there too. I know what to call it now. They've trained me well. But Football Night in America, like, I know we've got a full preseason. We got a regular season and playoffs, but I want to look at the Super Bowl in February. NBC's going to have that. You're going to be out in Santa Clara with Football Night in America. How much are you looking forward to that?
Man, you talk about being a player for 13 years and all we talked about every year, even if it wasn't every single day, the goal was to make it to the Super Bowl. And then you walk away from football and you're like, man, that was awesome getting to play. I played in 5 Super Bowls and I never knew I would get to be a part of more Super Bowls. I thought 5 was ridiculous to already start, and now, sitting in Canton earlier this year in late July and saying like, "Man, we're gonna start the NFL season with the Hall of Fame game, and then we're gonna end the NFL season with the Super Bowl on our network and being a part of that." So I'm so excited. I've watched some of their Super Bowl coverage back when they had the Rams in Cincinnati playing, and that was even a different year, post COVID and all of that. But just seeing this, it's 6 hours of TV and all of the content that you put out there, the interviews, the feature stories. I'm just excited to be a part of the biggest day of the football calendar. And like I said, I got to do it a bunch as a player. Now getting to do it from a media perspective. I want to, bring my player perspective with the media side, with my thoughts on the game. I'm really excited to put all that together.
Well, speaking of the player perspective from both of you, I mean, a lot of talk out there about the addition of a potential 18th game to the schedule. I mean, put on that helmet again as a player. Like, how do you feel about that?
I think it's twofold. There's a side as a player when you look at it, and obviously I'm not a current one. So you say to yourself, it's hard enough getting through 16 games while I was playing the majority of my career. And at the very end, getting a taste of the 17 games. Now you're talking about more stress, more hits, more running on the football field. So that cumulative effect that it has on the body. So adding an 18th game from a player perspective sounds crazy. And I think that's when you talk about on the field. So if you're going to add that 18th game, it's like, all right, what else are you going to give me to take care of my body? Are we going to get an extra bye week within that season? Are we going to get some more players added on the roster? So when it comes to practice, it may be 1 or 2 less reps of practice that over the course of now 19 weeks of practice, and that kind of takes a step back and allows my body to recover. I think because you have to think about those things, because from a player perspective, the second side of it is, what's the difference monetarily when we're talking about adding another game? That's going to be more money in owners' pocket, more money for the league. So how is that being distributed to the players? Are you getting a bigger revenue share? There's so many different factors that comes into the 18 games. I think on the simple surface side, we look at it and it's just, all right, that's more wear and tear on our bodies. But if we can get compensated for it, and from a fan perspective, if they're enjoying the product more because maybe it's one less preseason game and another regular season game, and maybe it makes that last game of the season even better if we do some things maybe with the playoffs, so that you're not playing in a week 19 game where both teams are either both knocked out of the playoffs and you're playing for the first overall pick, or both teams have already clinched and it's all backups playing. So I love the idea around it and the conversation around it. I just think it has a lot more evolving to do to come to a foregone conclusion that is going to work.
Devin, you feel the same?
I think the biggest thing is the product on the field. And I think we've seen that with the preseason games. And before we got on the call, you guys are talking about joint practices. When you combine the preseason games with the joint practices, what you're actually seeing out there in the preseason games, it starts to turn into, okay, our coach is able to evaluate undrafted younger players and joint practices without these games, or do the games still feel necessary? So should it be one preseason game? Should it be 2 preseason games? I think figuring that out makes it a lot easier to determine what the 18 games look like. Like you mentioned, Jay, at a bye week, maybe it's a 20-week season instead of 19 or 18, how it is now. So I think throwing those things in there, allowing guys to say, "Hey, we'll take an extra week," and I think if they can map it out, maybe it makes the Super Bowl end on President's Day weekend.
We all want that holiday. We all want that Monday off.
They want to be off Monday, so maybe we make the people happy from that perspective as well. And it seems like it could be a win-win. But I think all throughout our career was bodies and how much money you can make. And I think those are the things in the balancing act for the players that you have to always think about. Can we make it through a season healthy, and can we be compensated more? And what is the mix, and what are we giving up or sacrificing to make the other side happy?
You guys talked about the body being taxed, and part of that is also international games, changing time zones, going over to London, going over to Germany. We're going to Spain now, like getting over to Europe. It's a big lift. So what do you think about a broader slate of international games? Because we've heard Roger Goodell talk about maybe even 18 games over the course of a season played abroad.
There's going to be international teams. Call it, I see a future where there's possibly 2 in London, maybe 2 in Germany. I think there's a chance where we see each year these games are bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, like you just said, there's going to be a game in Spain, game in Brazil. Like it's expanding to other countries, but that staple has now kind of been in London and in Germany. I think it's the buildup for a time where maybe a team spends a month, stateside, and that team from London plays a month of games there, and then you're playing in Germany or in London. I think they're going to figure that out, but it's a part of the game. There's no way around it. I think, it went from maybe two teams or three teams playing, across the seas a year to now it's 8 to 9 games, 10 games. Like it's going to continue to grow. And I think when you talk about the revenue share, the salary cap, you talk about all those things going up, it's expanding the game and making it a global sport. So NFL has been talking about that for years. We want to be a global sport. We want to be like soccer for us over here, but football for the rest of the world. And we want to be like basketball when it's wherever we go, people know. So I definitely see it coming.
I don't know if I see a team. I just think the trying to figure out how to logistically get and play games and all of that. But to your point, Dev, when you talk about now a course of a season, 18 games where every single team is playing international at some point during the course of the schedule, I think that's going to be the first step. And maybe there's teams way down the line after they figure out logistically how you do it. But I think you just said, as a player, I went over to London twice and I hated it as a player because you were on a Thursday night flight that was a red eye. You got in Friday. As soon as you got in Friday, you got something to eat. You went out to the practice field. You wrapped up Friday. You had meetings and all of that stuff. You had a little bit of a night to yourself Friday, but we stayed an hour and a half away from London. And then you woke up Saturday. You went through your normal routine, played a game on Sunday. And after the game, you were right back on a plane flying back home. So you didn't get to fully experience what that international trip was all about. Now, I've been multiple times since I've retired, once with Good Morning Football, once calling a game, and it is a phenomenal experience. So I got to see from a media perspective, but also I was just a fan there. So I think the tough thing for players is you have to realize how meaningful these international games are to the NFL and to the game of American football and what it does. The fans there absolutely love it. When Brady played there against the Seahawks, they had 3 million people that all tried to get tickets to the game. The fans stayed in the stadium for an hour after the game was over, all singing songs and having a great time. So I'm excited. I think the 18 games down there, figuring out all the different places that we're going to be able to play is going to be a ton of fun. And from a media perspective, hopefully somebody's paying up for my flight so I can go out there and cover all of these games.
I never thought we'd be writing about jet technology here at Sports Business Journal, but that's where we were last season in a football newsletter, looking at how owners are keeping their eye on improvements to how fast they can get over to Europe, where the technology is. Can they bring back some of that Concorde technology? Because that's the only way, I think, you're going to be able to have even the thought of a franchise over in Europe. All right, a couple quick hitters here to round things out. You're both Rutgers alums, but do you feel Big Ten or do you feel Big East?
100% Big East, baby.
Yes.
Love it. Love to hear it. Who was an analyst or studio host that you both tried to model yourselves after?
I know I would say game plan wise, I love what Ryan Clark did. I remember being 2014, being in joint practices with the Commanders, and I remember seeing RC out there, and he was hurt, and he was like, working out on the side, and we're just talking. He's talking about like, getting towards the end of his career, and the next thing I know, I saw him on ESPN over and over again. I'm like, man, isn't he still playing? Like, how is he? And I just thought that was so smart as a guy that was in a locker room, still playing, but taking the time of investing in what he wanted to do down the line and doing that and doing it and doing it and showing up, doing it for free, just going. And the next thing you know, he's a longtime guy at ESPN. He has his own podcast now. I think just the way that he got into it and the strategic plan that he had. I know it was something that, like I said, my last year, I went on as many things as possible, as many networks and platforms to kind of show that, hey, I want to do this. I want to take it serious. Somebody give me an opportunity. So that was something that, I learned from just watching RC that I took and added to my career that I thought was a big help of getting started.
It's supposed to be a quick hit. We didn't need all of that
Oh,
information.
sorry.
For me, if I'm being honest, when I started on Good Morning Football, the people I learned the most from was watching Peter Schrager, Kyle Brandt, and Jamie Erdahl do their jobs every single day, because I'm coming fresh off the field and I don't really have a great idea of what it's like to do a show every single day. So I literally will watch the way they prepared, the way they answered, and try to emulate a little bit of all of them, because on that show, sometimes you were the host, sometimes you were answering questions, you were leading segments. So I would say those three I learned a ton from in the 2 seasons I got to work with them.
Do you guys think spring football can work?
I'm going to say no. We've continued to watch it go down, and it seems like it just fluctuates, but is never able to sustain.
I think the biggest thing is it has to be in cities which like St. Louis, a city who had football and still craves football. You think about maybe in Oakland, like some of these cities that once had teams, or down in like Alabama or different places that you end up following teams a state away or a few miles away, but you will love your hometown team. I think those would work better from a people showing up and going to the games and supporting. I think could add to eventually being TV deals and things like that might make more sense.
Yeah, I love the St. Louis answer. They've definitely been the biggest draw in the first 2 years of this combined UFL effort. All right, Jason, let's start with you on this. Best sports documentary or docu-series that you've seen?
Probably Last Dance. I think a combination of how good it was with the timing of it, of what was going on in our country, I felt like it was just must-watch TV, where every time during that week, Sunday evenings, you're sitting down, everybody was watching, you're texting, you're FaceTiming. Last Dance was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Last Dance was definitely up there. I would say some of the ones that I've loved as just a fan, Bill Russell's documentary. I can't think of the name on Netflix. And also, what I really enjoyed after this past summer was the the gold documentary that just showed for my era, seeing LeBron, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry together, and like the magic and what they talk about behind the scenes. I thought that was really cool, getting to watch those.
No, Court of Gold was an amazing one. Totally agree on that one. All right, what else do you guys watch besides football? Devin, we'll go to you first.
I'm a big shows guy, so I watch a ton of shows. Like I'm gonna go on and watch like what's top 10 on Netflix, what's top 10 on Peacock or on Prime. Like I'm always trying to catch the next show that's coming on. I just finished Hunting Wives, that was on Netflix, and it's just a random show that I watched one episode and I was like, oh, this is pretty good. So between myself and I usually hook in Jay's wife. We always watch a ton of shows because we watch them and we'll be finished within like a week, and then we'll break them all down.
Right on with him. I'm watching The Better Sister right now on Amazon Prime. Neighbors, and what is it, Thieves of Neighbors. I'm watching that one on Apple TV. But
Really good one.
my off season has been spent watching The Sopranos. So I had never watched The Sopranos before. And this off season, I dedicated my entire off season to banging out all 6 seasons of The Sopranos. So I just finished probably last week all 21 episodes of season 6, and the best show of all time. I have loved every moment of it, looking up the different places in New Jersey that took place, Ramsey Outdoor. I know exactly where the Bing is at, all of it. So I've been all in on The Sopranos this offseason.
His wife thought that we needed to have an intervention because the more Sopranos, the more Tony, the more Tony we saw coming out of him. So it was at one point we thought we were gonna have to sit him down and say, "Hey, like you're not Tony Soprano. Like we can't have you acting this way."
I'm learning how to be a boss, man.
Nah, I love that you went back and watched it. That's great. I might have to do that myself, actually. All right, we'll get you out here on this. Devin, I'll start with you. The biggest storyline this NFL season you're paying attention to?
Oh, biggest storyline without a doubt will be the Kansas City Chiefs, and can one of these AFC teams finally take down the Chiefs? And the flip side of that is the Chiefs get crushed in the Super Bowl. The resilience of them. What does it look like? Are they done? Do they come back and shock the world? I think that's going to be the biggest storyline.
immediately I would say right now is the contract holdouts. Terry McLaurin, obviously Micah Parsons. Do these guys get paid with owners? How are you figuring out how to keep your best players, Trey Hendrickson, in the same line, in the same vein as all of that? And I would say my other storyline is who's going to be the surprise team? Is it going to be the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton and Bo Nix that surprise people and they're sitting in a Super Bowl at some point? Is it going to be the Chargers and Justin Herbert finally going to take that step on the next level? Is it going to be the Rams? I think it's the surprise teams that no one expects. Is it going to be one of them to come up and be hoisting that Lombardi trophy by the end of the season?
Well, I love the work that you guys have done so far. Cannot wait to see what you do next. Devin McCourty, you can catch him on Football Night in America on NBC Sports. And Jason McCourty is going to be calling games for CBS this season. Gentlemen, appreciate you jumping on the podcast.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, man.